Welcome to the Maasto Fitness podcast. Today, in episode 4 of 2025, we are talking about endurance training, how to build race day stamina off the bike. So, this is the Maasto Fitness podcast. We keep them short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer on race day. At Maasto Fitness, we work with racers who don't have a ton of time to train off the bike or necessarily get a ton of ride days. So, we take that time they have to train off the bike and make them stronger, fitter, and safer. So days on the bike are faster and safer. Simple as that. And like I said, today we are talking about strength. So first, let's talk about endurance need for motocross and enduro. So it's a really aerobic activity. It's a long duration, and you need to be able to have anaerobic capacity, which is like without oxygen, really high intensity for short burst of intensity as well. So it doesn't matter if you're doing something like motos or sprint enduros or something all the way up to an enduro or a hare scramble that's multi-hours or a 24-hour race. They're all considered endurance events. Anything from, that 10-minute range all the way up to 24 and beyond is an endurance event. So we need to be able to train like endurance athletes. And that's kind of the key here is we need that aerobic capacity. We need a strong cardiovascular system that can bring fresh oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to our working muscles to keep us going. So having a strong base is important. So you're efficient. Having anaerobic capacity is important. So at high intensity levels, you're able to continue going and the body's able to recover and you're able to keep going. Both ranges are important, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and even why those easy workouts are super important. So first, we're going to talk about base training. This is really important for endurance racing. And it's zone 2 is what it's called. So if we were to take and split everything up just simple into 4 zones. So zone 1 is recovery. That's really easy. That's a little bit harder of an effort that I'm giving right now. I'm going out for a super easy ride, a super easy run, or maybe just a hike. I'm exercising, but at a very low intensity. That's important for recovery and helping the body speed up recovery and get fresh nutrients to our body to help us recover quicker. Without digging more of an exercise fatigue hole. Next is going to be zone 2, which is what we're about to talk about. That's kind of like something you could do for hours and hours. It's not easy, but it's definitely not hard. You can speak like a sentence, kind of a good way to say it, or almost a sentence. Next is going to be zone 3. This is a pretty solid effort, but not all out. Something that maybe you could maintain anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes, depending on your fitness. You can speak a couple words, but it's definitely hard. And then finally, we'll say zone 4 is like that all out effort, maximum effort. You can only do it for really in seconds, would be zone 4. So we're talking about zone 2 right now. And that zone 2 work, that kind of steady state cardio, whether it's cycling, rowing, running, is really important. And that's something, ideally we want to build up to at least 90 minutes if our schedule will allow. Just helping us become more aerobically fit and efficient helps all zones and helps us on race day, no matter what duration we're doing, because we need a really strong cardiovascular system. And one neat thing that we can do in zone 2 is we create more mitochondria. So mitochondria, you can kind of think of as the powerhouse of the cell. So let's say you've got a 125 cc bike and you put a high compression head on it. You're able to take that same cc and get a little more power out of it. Now, zone 2 would be like taking that mitochondria and taking that same area, but making it stronger, taking that same area of muscle, but we've got more mitochondria, which I said are the powerhouse of the cell, and essentially making that muscle stronger, more effective. So same deal there. So zone 2, super important for us. Next, we'll talk about that high intensity training, that anaerobic training, those short burst maximum effort. Now, any type of racing you're doing, super intense motos, or you're out there in the middle of a hare scramble and there's a super intense section, there's going to be parts where we have to just give our maximum effort. And we need our body to be able to take the heart rate all the way up there and be able to handle that and come back down to that upper end of aerobic and still be able to maintain. Because if we don't train that high intensity, and I'm talking like that zone 4, what happens is you hit a couple tough, really tough things. You take that heart rate all the way up and back down, all the way up and back down. And if we're not trained properly, after a couple goes, we're not going to be able to do it anymore, and we're going to kind of like have our tongue in the spokes. So making sure you really train that top end anaerobic is also key. And then final, I'll do the one between those two, that tempo training. So if you know that feeling when you've been training before or racing, where you kind of get like that burn, you've got like it's lactic acid building up, it's like a burn going on. And doing zone 3 training, one of the great benefits of it when done properly is you're going to buffer that lactic acid. So you're basically going to take that time to burn and that burn feeling and extend it. There's just like all of these, there's more things that will help us and are key to us. But I think a great example of that is we're extending that burn time or a lactic buffering handling, and that's something that can be trained and can be improved through proper training. So zone 1, that recovery, key. Zone 2, key. Zone 3, key. Zone 4, also key. So each of those really important to us and our endurance. So now, how do we balance endurance training and strength training? And this is something at Maasto Fitness for our racers that we take care of. No matter what program they're on, every week is laid out with a mix of strength and endurance, making sure we're hitting the key muscles, the key groups at the key intensities, and doing the right specificity of endurance training. But simply enough, if you're just looking to get started and trying to figure out how do I fit all this into a week, try to aim to do strength 2 to 3 times a week. Try to aim to do endurance or cardiovascular 2 to 3 times a week. And then in addition, mobility work 1 to 2 times a week. So at Maasto Fitness, one thing we do with our racers is their mobility sessions are built into their strength sessions. So we do some warm-up mobility and cool-down mobility that helps improve their mobility and gets them prepared for the workout and helps them recover for it. So fits it in both ways. And a great way you can do it as well as you are warming up for your session and then cooling down. And then, with this, fitting it in, always adjust on your schedule. If it's really important for you to train outside and you can only get X amount of days outside in the sun or the right weather, adjust that. But ultimately, we want to keep overall strength, endurance, mobility fairly balanced. So now, what are the key takeaways for today? And I would say the first and most important is we need that cardiovascular training. We are endurance athletes. It takes a very high effort, very high heart rate that we have to maintain for racing, and we need to be able to train the body for it because we don't want it beating us up. We want us to be able to attack any conditions, terrain, and the better cardiovascular trained you are, the better you're going to be at dealing with all that. So making sure you put in the time that cardiovascular training is going to pay off. And it really, if you played any sports growing up or in college or look at really any athletes, every sport, no matter what it is, includes strength training and cardiovascular training. And so we as endurance athletes as well also need that training. We need to make sure we get that cardiovascular training in because the more efficient our heart is, the better we can supply that fresh blood and nutrient-rich oxygen. I said that backwards. The better we can supply oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to our muscles, the better we're going to feel, the faster we're going to go, the harder we can push it. And that's ultimately our goal, is to be fast and safe. So that's it for today. If you have not tried Maasto Fitness before, if you're not on the team, send me a message on Instagram or Facebook that you want to give it a go. I can hook you up with a free week of training. All I need is your email address, no commitment beyond that. And you can see all the things we provide for our athletes and all the things we can do to help you. So I'll see you guys next week.